guys, Sandra here from Createinspain. You wanted a tour of my craft room, so I'm sat on my chair and I'm just going to rotate around and show you what it looks like. Up there is actually a bed, which I use as another surface, but since this is actually a spare room, and I've got a few of my cutting mats in the corner there. I don't keep them in a drawer, they're always being used. I'm always changing around. So I keep them out there. A couple of cans of spray adhesive. Okay, so now my printer, my silver bullet platinum, and then we come around. I've got a window in front here, so I'm going to keep it relatively low, and I've got a long work surface. There's my pens with the container that I made for them very recently. And you can just see my plugs and sockets all there. And turning around, you can see the lower shelf and back to the door again. So I'm sandwiched in between the door frame and my big IKEA cupboard, so you can see this area here. Now I have a dust collector in there. That's that funny shaped thing that you can see. But the desk underneath it is really good. It pulls out, it's completely independent of the top. So I can pull this out into the centre of the room and use it as extra workspace if I need to. So to the left here, I've got some of the foam board that I use to make my marker storage. And underneath the table, I've got my sewing machine. I've got a cloth mat. And I've also got my nice little body warmer that I have to use in the winter to keep myself toasty in here because it gets a bit cold. So the only crafting item that I store on this particular area is this paper and card. It's just a bit too big to go in my other drawers without wasting an awful lot of space. So here I've got my paper trimmer and I've got another cloth. I was actually cleaning up my leather chair, so that's why that cloth is still there. And I have a few mugs that I haven't got around to decorating yet. In this bag down here, I've got a whole load of different containers that I store simply because every now and again I need a container for something and I'd rather recycle than buy another one. So the first cupboard has basically got my airbrush equipment in with a few other bits and pieces. And I've got some origami books in there. I've got some embroidery backing sheets in there. A whole packet of copy paper and also my light box. So that's it pretty much for that drawer. Now the top drawer is Sellotape City. I have foam tape, I have lots of different tapes, I have double-sided tape, masking tape, metal tapes, various things, and I also keep my glue guns in different packets. So for example, I've got one glue gun in there, and I've got another glue gun down in there. I've also got foam tape in bags as well as my spare foam tape. So that's what's in there. Now the bottom drawer, because you might notice there's 3 drawers, doesn't have craftings in it. So that's not really relevant. So to the next drawer, if I move around, you can get a good look at that. This is a drawer for everything that doesn't really fit everywhere else. It's got foil in it, it's got desk covering in it, it's got bags, my camera case, a couple of tripods. Yeah, it's miscellaneous. This drawer, the second one down, is dedicated more towards pens and pencils and inks. I've got food colourings in there because I do sometimes use food colouring to paint with. And underneath these ink tints and watercolour pencils, I'll grab these. I have a whole load of powdered elements as well that I use to add various sort of shimmery effects to things. I have an enormous stash of Sakura pens, everything from glazed pens to the metallics, and I store those in bags horizontally in the drawer as well. The bottom drawer is basically a paint drawer. I have palettes, paints, and my texture mediums in there. So now we come round to the drawer which is on the left of my seating area. Now the bottom one, this one is full of vinyl things. I have some more expensive vinyls underneath, and then cheaper bits of rolled vinyl on the top, and also some of the backing paper because that comes in handy. I like to keep that as part of my supply. So here's some of the decorative elements that I have, from cords and threads and ribbons, embroidered fabric-y type things, embellishments, brads, yeah, all sorts of things in here. And this bag here is full of things that I use for putting in my Shelving cards. This is another drawer of embellishments, so I've got everything in there from stick-on gems to beads and things like that. I've got brads and threads. I have cotton buds. I have wooden lollipop sticks, all sorts of things. And the ice cream box doesn't have ice cream in it. It has the stuff I use for my LED card creation. Now the top drawer on the left, this box here, this is all things that I use when I'm close to my cutting machine. So scrapers and rollers and blades and all sorts of stuff like that. And then on the right hand side, these plastic envelopes are my card scraps. And underneath that, I have foam scraps. So my card scraps are in 3 folders. I have plain. I know that's sparkly, but it's a plain colour. So I have plain, I have white, and I have patterned card. Now if we come up a little bit, you can see I've got connectors for my laptop, for my machine. I've got the camera connector for my machine. Now come around here, I've got a few things which stay by my cutter. I've got sticky tape. I have the needle tool for my cutting machine. I have a whole jar full of tool holders, so the blade holders and embossing tools, things like that. And then I have this one, which is full of, try and get this open, one-handed, phew. So the metal tool here is a traditional pen holding tool for my machine. And these other ones are ones that I've designed and 3D printed, which are pen specific. So I have round ones in here. I also have hexagonal ones as well. So this is the area where I sit and do all my creating. Underneath the desk, I've got a single bottle of gel for stamp making, and I've got a bottle of window cleaner that I use for cleaning my desk and stuff. And then, of course, I have my alcohol markers on top of here. And then on top of that, I've got my Tim Holtz trimmer. I've got a white tile for mixing paint and things. I've got my coloured pencils. And because I've been doing some work with them recently, I've got these bits on top as well. They would normally go in a drawer, but I haven't finished using those yet. So this corner's got all my power sockets, my LED lamp for shining some extra light on things, my tape holders, and also my watercolour pens. Those are separate to my alcohol markers, and I've actually got a 3D printed wedge under the container to stop them from all falling out onto the desk. And then I've got a white toweling piece, which as you can see is stained because I use it for wiping brushes and inks and whatever. Under here I've got my cupboard, and also this is where I keep my enormous great bin, a very useful thing to have. And in the corner in there is my airbrush compressor. And you can just see the airbrush holders there, and I hang things on that when I'm using different tools. So the top drawer here is where I keep my stamp making stuff. I've got my external mic and a mouse and some rulers in that drawer. This one is where I keep my glitter card, or most of it at least. And then the bottom drawer, I have things like my sewing machine foot, some spare sockets, and a toolbox which has got screwdrivers in, because I can never find my husband's screwdrivers when I need them. So this is a nice little wooden container that I picked up in Aldi for about €10. And then it took me about 6 hours to put it together because it was a real nasty one to put together. No screw holes in it. It was an absolute nightmare. But anyway, it serves its purpose well now. I've got all my inks in the top drawer. The next one has got my stamp blocks in and scraping tools and blenders, that sort of stuff. This, of course, is my Tim Holtz stamping platform, and I've got a couple of homemade platforms underneath, smaller ones. This drawer was empty, but I just put some colour swatches in it. Now this is odds and ends of replacements and supplies, so things like the coloured pencils or coloured leads for my propelling pencil and things like that. Spare blades and whatever for normal cutting tools. And the bottom one is where I have a lot of my frames for matting cards. My shelving here is pretty full. I made some carousels so that I can get to things more easily, so those were homemade carousels there. And I have all my tools that I use all the time, you know, that you really don't want to bother putting into a drawer because you know you're going to have to get them out. Then on top of that, I've got a laser printer, I have a UV lamp for nails, I have an e-file, and then I have a UV lamp for doing my stamp making. And then we're almost finished. This is my repurposed IKEA cupboard, and as you can see, it's got a lot of larger brushes in the top because they don't fit anywhere else. Folders with things like foam in it, all sorts of vinyls and things like that which are already cut into sheets. The next layer down is miscellaneous but largely contains embossing powders and glitters. Then I have a shelf full of my own homemade stamps with some beads underneath and a project on it that I haven't actually completed but didn't want to put somewhere else. I wanted it in sight so I don't forget about it. Then I have my shelf full of papers and cards. They are actually organised in a way that makes sense to me, but they've got a little bit disorganised of late. And then finally I have a box of glues and liquids, various chemicals, and things like airbrush cleaner and modelling tools and spray paint, etc. in the bottom. So that is it. I could almost touch everything from sitting in my chair and turning around. So it's definitely not a large room. Hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.